Good afternoon. You are looking at live views of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. I apologize for the extremely grainy video. We will get higher resolution video in just a few moments. Whoops. I apologize if you heard something weird. I heard something weird on my end. But we are live for the OneWeb 15 mission out of Cape Canaveral in Florida. You are no longer looking at live views of Falcon 9 on pad 39A. However, propellant loading has begun on the Falcon 9 rocket. The first stage is being loaded with both RP-1 and liquid oxygen as we speak. So, hoping for liftoff in just around 25 minutes. Hello, Astrozone. Yeah, RS-1 stood down from a launch attempt earlier today. Ooh, look, there is beautiful live views of the Falcon 9 rocket on Launch Complex 39A as the sun begins to set. Thank you, Aerospace 001, for being a low Earth orbit member. But yeah, the Falcon 9 rocket is on pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center. And we are just watching and waiting as we expect liftoff at 5:27 p.m. Eastern Time. So, yeah, hopefully we get a launch soon. The mobile launcher is rolling back into the VAB after hosting the launch of Artemis 1. Artemis 1 was a successful launch, and we are now awaiting for its return. The splashdown is scheduled for December 11th at around 11:30 a.m. We will definitely be streaming that. That's actually in around 3 days. So, hoping that we get, hoping that that stays on time, and that yes, they can actually delay the splashdown. So, yeah. Once again, you are looking at live views of the Kennedy Space Center. This is the VAB. This is not what's going to be flying today. However, just around 3 miles away from this building is the Falcon 9 rocket, and that is what will be flying today. All teams pulled go, and weather is looking 90% favorable for liftoff conditions at T0. So, yeah. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will be answering those questions as we go along with the stream. So yeah, the clear skies above Cape Canaveral looking pretty favorable for liftoff conditions at T0. Ooh, that is really low quality. What did I do? Well, that's the quality we're gonna have to deal with. Actually, let's just zoom out. On the right of basically in the center of the screen, you can see the Falcon 9 rocket. Vehicle is vertical next to that black tower. It's being supported by a small white structure. That is the TE that will fall away at liftoff. Then there's the rocket, which is around 220 to 230 feet tall. And the black tower on the side of it is what's it? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's the launch tower. Here we go. Here's close-up shots of Falcon 9. So this booster is B1069. This will be flying. It will be flying for its 4th time on today's mission. Yeah, this booster will be flying for the 4th time on today's mission, and hopefully it goes well. Today will be an RTLS, or return to launch site landing, or return to launch site mission. So after launch, the booster will flip around and boost back, and it will land just a few miles away from our cameras. So that should result in some pretty spectacular views, as well as triple sonic booms as the booster marks its arrival back to Florida. I know that Ian or Ian the Space Nerd, will be outside trying to view this launch from the west coast of Florida. However, I do not. This should not be visible to much else aside from Florida and possibly some of like the Bahamas and places like that. The launch will happen 1 minute after sunset, so we will most likely not get the jellyfish effect. We might get a partial jellyfish, but most likely we will not get a full jellyfish effect. You can see some vapor forming on the base of B1069, which is the booster that is currently flying on today's mission.
Stage 2 RP1 load complete.
Stage 2 RP1 load complete, and there is that 20-minute vent starting up. That 20-minute vent signifying that we are just 20 minutes away from a launch of Falcon 9 with OneWeb 15. That's getting the upper stage ready for liftoff at T0. Excited to have another launch from Cape Canaveral. It's been a while. Not really, but it has been around a week and a half since the last launch from the Cape. I believe I am double checking what I'm saying because I get stuff wrong. The last launch from the Cape was CRS-26 on November 26th, which was 12 days ago. So that was from the same pad. So yeah. We are looking at live views of Falcon 9 as the 20-minute event continues. There's a close-up of the inner stage. So, yeah, once again, hoping for liftoff at T0. So yeah, that 20-minute event should last another minute or two. So yeah, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Feel free to ask them. We will try our best to answer them. Today it's just me on commentary. However, hopefully we get some more people on commentary in the future. Once again, the pad you're currently looking at is Historic Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center. This is a more zoomed out camera shot from the press site. The press site is around 3 miles away. So we should get a pretty nice rumble from those 9 Merlin engines as we ascend into the evening sky over Cape Canaveral. You can see the vent getting caught in the wind. This vent is to get the lines on the TE ready for propellant load on the second stage, specifically liquid oxygen load on the second stage. This is to, well, I just explained it, so I don't need to explain it that much more. That's really all it is. They're beginning to flow propellant through the lines, so it does not like completely destroy the lines as rockets tend to do sometimes. I apologize for the super low resolution video that we're currently getting. It will for sure be higher resolution at the launch. And we will have on-site audio from the launch. So we should get the rumble and the sonic booms as the booster ascends and descends from the sky. So if you can share the stream with your friends, that is greatly appreciated. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Yeah, the 20-minute event now completed. That signifies we are now under 20 minutes to the launch of OneWeb 15 on Falcon 9. I apologize for that. So this mission will be flying the polar corridor going south out of the Cape. So not many people are a fan of that. Personally, I am not a fan of it either because I cannot see those launches. But yeah, polar corridor is not my preferred trajectory for launch. So after liftoff, this vehicle will begin pitching downrange, and it'll pitch directly south. So it'll be flying south at around, I believe it's basically directly on the poles, so 90 degrees inclination. We're getting some really pretty shots from the Cape at the moment. On the right of your screen, you can actually see the Starship Tower. That is the tower that will support future Starship launches from Florida and possibly even the Dear Moon contract. It was announced earlier today that Dear Moon, they have actually selected the crew members on Dear Moon. The crew members on board are Yusaku Maezawa, Steve Aoki, Tim Dodd, which is the everyday astronaut, Yemi AD, Rhiannon Adam, Karim Ilya, Brendan Hall, Dev Joshi, and TOP. And the backup crew members are Caitlin Farrington and Miyu. So, yeah, it's a pretty exciting mission. It will launch on a Starship launch vehicle out of either Starbase, Texas, Boca Chica, Texas, or Cape Canaveral, Florida, either Launch Complex 39A or Launch Complex 49, which is under construction at the moment for future Starship missions. So yeah, as we continue to lift off, as we continue the count to liftoff, we should begin to see more venting and more activity from the vehicle. We are just around 13 minutes to the launch. So let's stand by for that. SpaceX now playing their intro on their stream. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will try our best to answer them, as I have said previously. That is the SpaceX intro. That is not the actual launch that's happening right now. That is their intro. So, yeah, if you do not know something that's happening, you can put it in the chat. We will do our best to answer the question once again. But that, you can see the Starship Tower, you can see the Starship water tank, and you can see Falcon 9 in the center of your screen. And that is live views that SpaceX is providing us of Launch Complex 39A as the sun sets over the Kennedy Space Center. We are just over T-minus 12 minutes. And hopefully everything goes well with the launch of Falcon 9 when OneWeb 15 to orbit. So earlier in the count, the launch director briefed briefed mission control on what to do if there was a fire. That is important, which we learned during the launch of NG-18. Yeah. So, yeah, because there was a fire in Cygnus mission control, and fires aren't that good. So, yeah. This is not a new commentator. She has been on multiple streams before. Low res Falcon 9. Actually, let's just go here. Actually, this is the trajectory that I'll be flying out of Cape Canaveral. So you can see that is where the pad is, where the air that says LC-39 is. it'll be flying basically directly south over Cuba. So the Bahamas, Cuba, everyone will be able to see it. Actually, that'll be an epic shot from Cuba if people there are trying to see it, because it'll be flying directly overhead for some people. Yeah, so that is the launch trajectory that we are expecting during today's mission. So yeah, once again, we are expecting liftoff in just around 10 minutes, actually. So let's watch as Falcon 9 carries 40 OneWeb satellites to orbit. The sun is setting, looking sort of promising for a jellyfish. We're probably not going to get a full jellyfish, however, fingers are crossed for a partial jellyfish effect. So yeah, you are currently looking at live use of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket on Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center. The sun has begun to set. The sky has gone from blue and slowing down or going down to around a pinkish. That'll probably be how it is for the launch. But yeah, hoping that we get liftoff in just not very many minutes. Not very many minutes. But yeah, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is a two-stage, partially reusable launch vehicle, which is manufactured and developed by SpaceX. This rocket is known for propulsively landing their first stage on both land and at sea. A video will actually be coming in the coming weeks about the Falcon 9, so stand by for that, as it is, in my opinion, a pretty good video. So you can see the sky's getting darker as we get closer and closer to the launch of OneWeb 15. It's actually looking pretty promising for a partial jellyfish. For Ian, he might not get the jellyfish because he's on the west coast and the sun sets around 10 minutes later, I believe, over there as to the Cape. So he won't get as much of a jellyfish, and we got word from Ian, the sky is very clear. So hopefully you can see that, since the sky is extremely clear. Even at the Cape there's some clouds, a little bit of clouds, but not really, so it looks like Florida is mostly clear for the launch of Falcon 9. So I wish everyone the best of viewing for this launch. 1 second, let me sync up the video feeds. Because, you don't want liftoff like very much before liftoff actually is. So let me just do that. Okay. I apologize for this really quick. I have to do this before the launch actually happens. So you can actually do 2 times speed. That is a live view of landing zone 2 at the Kennedy Space Center.
Spacecraft is on internal power.
The spacecraft is on internal power. We have received word that OneWeb 15,
Stage 1, RP1 load complete.
First stage has completed its load of RP1 propellant. And we are looking good for liftoff at T0 in just around 6 minutes. Oh, fairing cam. You can see some Starship pad work in the background, as well as the payload fairings. These look like they have previously flown at least one mission. You can see that because there are soot markings on the fairing. That is a picture of the satellites. But you can see that on the article we are going to post after the launch. It'll be up like at T plus 20 minutes. So if you're interested in seeing that, you can join our Discord server. That's where you can get all the announcements on everything that's happening with our channel and at Onkla. So the sky is getting darker and darker. Hopefully we can get a track to orbit of the second stage from the press site, as that would be pretty cool, since it should be a jellyfish effect. So again, if you are anywhere, Cape Canaveral, possibly a little north, like Melbourne. Actually, if you're in Jacksonville, like somewhere up north in Jacksonville, Tallahassee, anywhere up there, you can probably get a glimpse of it if you get high enough.
For strong back retract.
The tank's pressing for a strong back retract. That means they're pressurizing before the tower retracts away from the vehicle. So as I was saying, if you can get high enough, you can probably get a view of the launch. But if you are south in southern Florida, anywhere from like Cocoa Beach to Miami, probably even the Keys, you should be able to see this launch. Just look north and east. Or, well, depends where you are. Look, yeah, just
Starting
look east.
strong back retract.
Just look east, and you should be able to see this launch. So it should be an epic launch. So wishing all of the rocket photographers luck on capturing this event. And everyone that is not relatively close to the Cape, but trying to view it from their home, which is totally possible. I've done it multiple times here in Maryland, from Wallops, Cape Canaveral, anywhere. So yeah, it's a pretty cool sight when you just see a rocket flying across the sky from your house. So, but as we get closer to the launch, we are just gonna await the final calls. We will wait for the go for launch. We'll mute the audio, and we will bring up the field audio. That we have a mic placed just around 3 miles away from the launch site, and we have another mic on the ITL causeway, which should get the sonic booms from pretty close up. So yeah, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. You can see that TE retracting away from Falcon 9. Let's cut to this shot. So yeah, everything continues to look good. 3 minutes, 14 seconds to launch.
Stage 1, lock flow complete.
Yeah, let's watch as SpaceX launches Falcon 9 to a polar orbit, flying the polar corridor south, unfortunately. South is not a direction that space nerds like to fly their rockets. But that is what we're flying today. And I'm glad there's a launch, so yeah, let's be happy that there is a launch tonight. We are around T-minus 3 minutes to the launch of Falcon 9. The TE has retracted. Its pre-launch retraction is around 1.8 degrees. And at liftoff, it will retract. It'll swing back 45 degrees away from the vehicle to make sure that the vehicle has enough room to clear the tower as it lifts off. 2 minutes, 20 seconds to launch. Let's watch and listen as Falcon 9 carries OneWeb 15 to orbit. This is the part of the stream where I will get quiet and listen to SpaceX. Two minutes to the launch of OneWeb 15 from Cape Canaveral.
Stage 2, lock flow complete.
Stage 2, lock load complete. Look at that. That is pretty. Look at the sky above Cape Canaveral is really pretty right now. So we should get some great shots of the rocket flying through that at liftoff. There's that final depress, 1 minute 30 seconds to launch. That depress is clearing the tower from any gases and propellants
Launch gas closeouts.
that could be ignited at liftoff. So just expelling that, and once that is completed, we should get startup at T-minus 1 minute, which will then be followed by the go for launch call or a hold call by the launch director at around 40 seconds. Let's hope that all teams pull go. Look at that water tower overflowing. That is a classic. That's something classic that Launch Complex 39A tends to do before launch. 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9 is now in startup. Let's wait for the go for launch call. 50 seconds.
LD, go for launch.
And we're go for launch. Let's watch and listen as Falcon 9 carries OneWeb 15 into a low Earth orbit. 35 seconds to go as Falcon 9 prepares for its launch. All tanks are pressed for flight. 32 seconds and counting. At T-minus 2 seconds, the 9 Merlin engines will begin ignition, and they will ramp up to full thrust. And liftoff will occur at T0. 15 seconds to go. 10, 9, 8, or 10 seconds. Water sound suppression system is on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stage 1 ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9 with OneWeb 15 launching to the polar corridor from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Go Falcon 9. Vehicles now passing max Q, the maximum amount of aerodynamic pressure exerted on the vehicle on ascent, leaving that contrail at around 33,000 feet in altitude. Beautiful shots as Falcon 9 ascends into the evening sky above Cape Canaveral. So yeah, we have had a successful liftoff so far. That plume expansion looking really pretty in the microphones. Should get great shots, and you should be seeing this around now. So yeah, Falcon 9 will begin leaving that trail. That is a classic jellyfish thing. Look at that. Extreme close-up views of SpaceX from SpaceX. And some other video. So coming up next, we should get MECO, or main engine cutoff. That will then be followed by stage separation, stage 1 flip, and stage 1 boost back. So let's wait for that. MECO, main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 2 engine start. Look at that. It's partial jellyfish. Let's wait for that boost back, and stage 1 boost back burn has started. Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at that. You can see B1069 now flipping around and starting up that boost back burn. Wow, look at that. Booster B1069 now boosting back to Cape Canaveral for a propulsive landing on landing zone 1. Both vehicles now in frame. Which one do you track, first or second stage? But on the right side of your screen, you can see the Merlin vacuum engine nozzle glowing red because it's radiating out into space. On the left side of the screen, you can see the boost back burn underway on the first stage. We have boost back burn shutdown. That boost back burn is complete. Falcon 9 now heading back to Cape Canaveral. Look at that. Look at those views and coming up on fairing sep. There go those fairing halves. Those two fairing halves have successfully separated away from Falcon 9. Live tracking. Look at those thruster firings. These Twilight launches are always great to watch. because we get these thruster firings, we get the big jellyfish plume, we get so many cool things at these launches that you can't see during the just plain night or plain day launches. There are onboard views of booster B1069 as it descends back to Cape Canaveral. Now waiting on that re-entry burn, or entry burn. That is where the booster will light 3 of the 9 Merlin 1D engines to begin its initial slowing before its landing at LZ1. Those thruster firings are little cold gas nitrogen thrusters, which are used to orient the vehicle on its descent. That was a big one. Oh, that looks so cool. Look at that. That's insane. But yeah, you can see, let me move this down a little bit so you can see the speed. This second stage is speeding up as the first stage also speeds up. However, the first stage will light the engine at around 70 kilometers in altitude. And it will light 3 of the 9 Merlin 1D engines to begin the initial slowing of the vehicle. Coming up on re-entry burn. Passing through 60 kilometers, let's wait for that engine start. Those grid fins actuating. We have entry burn startup. Let's see if we get our own ground tracking views. So far, we have not captured it yet. There we go. And we have entry burn shutdown. The booster now falling out of the sky. Booster now in free fall, as we are now waiting for that landing burn to begin. Look at this. You can see Cape Canaveral approaching the video on the booster. Close-up shots as Falcon 9 punches through the atmosphere. And we should have landing burn, T-Teb ignition, and there is that landing burn. That landing burn is now underway as we descend into Cape Canaveral. And that landing burn has been completed. That wraps a successful flight for booster B1069. So, yeah, now with that, now all we're waiting for is SECO, or second engine cutoff. That will then be followed by deployment. But we will not be standing by for deployment. We do not have live views of the Falcon 9 second stage. Coming up on orbital insertion. That should be SECO, or second engine cutoff. Okay, so that will wrap up our coverage. Let's get to some chats. Where is this twilight effect visible? This is flying directly south, so it'll be visible to around central Florida, to around Cuba, but nowhere else in the country. Ian, did you see it? Because I bet if you saw that, that
Detected loss
would
of
be
signal.
super cool. That was an epic first RTLS of the week,
Nominal orbit insertion.
and we have confirmation of nominal orbital insertion. Ooh, can't wait to see the pictures that you got from that, if you took any. That'll be epic. So that will wrap up our coverage. Usually we don't end this early. Usually we stick by for payload separation. However, we will not be standing by, as that will occur in around an hour. So thanks for tuning in. If you want more rockets, there's an RS-20. There's the RS-1 launch later tonight at around 6:30 p.m. But yeah, until then, that will wrap up our coverage. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you. I need to plan this better. When is the next launch? And we'll see you on Sunday at 2:30 a.m. for the Hakuto R Mission 1 from Slick 40, as well with an RTLS as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you early Sunday morning.